With shiny new GPUs with equally shiny price tags launching what feels like almost every other month now, you could be forgiven for thinking that you absolutely need something flashy to game or to just have a capable system at all nowadays. But thankfully, that's not the case. At least not anymore. That's right, AMD and PC Builder have teamed up to sponsor this video where we'll be taking a look at the new Ryzen 5 8600G, an APU potentially so good, you might not even need to shell out a bundle on a dedicated graphics card. So let's just get straight into it. As of right now, the 8000G series includes the 8300G, 8500G, and the 8600G we're playing around with today. Along with that, we also get the 8700G, which I'll be checking out on the channel very soon, so stick around for that. What makes these chips worth getting hyped over is that they all ship with the Radeon 700M series graphics built right in. A heck of an upgrade over any iGPU series out there right now. And out of all of these chips, it's the 8600G that stood out to me the most. At its core, the 8600G is a 6-core 12-thread chip built on the same Zen 4 architecture that powers the likes of the 7800X3D and 7600X. But unlike its 7000 series cousins, the 8600G comes equipped with the Radeon 760M graphics built in. An iGPU with 8 cores that can boost all the way up to 2800 MHz and should give even ultra-budget dedicated graphics cards a run for their money. The CPU part of the CPU has a base and boost clock speed of 4.3 and 5 GHz respectively. It ships with native support for DDR5 up to 5200 MHz, supports Precision Boost 2, and it's pretty dang efficient too with a default TDP of just 65 watts. Along with all of that, the 8600 and 8700G both come equipped with a dedicated NPU or neural processing unit, capable of up to 16 TOPS, which should help with AI tasks like AI noise cancellation and other AI workloads as those become more popular. But it's not all great news. The 8600G does ship with less L3 cache at 16 MB, half that of the 7600X, and it also runs PCIe 4.0 instead of 5.0, with just 16 usable lanes compared to the 7600X's 24. The former should mean slightly lower performance overall, while the latter realistically only means not getting the full speed out of a PCIe 5.0 SSD. Price-wise, the 8600G lands between the 7600 and 7700X at $230, or about 5,700 Rand here in South Africa. That pricing wouldn't be all that exciting if we were just looking at another current Gen 6 core CPU. But we're not. What we're looking at is a very capable gaming CPU that also happens to have an ultra-budget GPU strapped to it, which definitely makes that $230 look like a bit of a bargain. And even more so if you consider that the chip comes bundled with a Wraith Stealth cooler right in the box. Bonus! Now, because this is an AM5 chip, just like the 7000 series, the 8600G can slot into any of the AM5 boards already on the market, including more affordable ones like MSI's Pro A620M-E, also known as the board included in the pre-built PC Builder system we're working with today. So, before we start playing around with the 8600G, let's take a quick look at the rig it's installed in. The PC Builder system powering this video comes fully assembled and impressively cable managed. They definitely did a lot more effort than I usually do, and it shows. PC Builder opted to go with MSI's A620M-E motherboard for this build, which I think is a pretty solid choice. It's a board that'll do everything you need it to, and it can even handle the more power-hungry Zen 4 chips no problem. The memory, case, power supply, and SSD follow the same budget-oriented spirit, with two 8GB modules of Crucial's DDR5, 4800 MHz CL40, and PC Builder's own little bunker micro ATX chassis that comes bundled with a 300-watt power supply. More than enough for a low-power system like this. And to top it off, MSI's affordable Spadium M371 500GB SSD. But hey, enough with the specs, let's fire this puppy up. Now, because the 8600G is a 12-thread part at heart, you'd expect it to be a pretty decent chip for productivity tasks. And I'm happy to report that it's exactly that. In Cinebench's multi-threaded test, the chip lands somewhere between the 3800XT and 5800X3D, both of which enjoy heavy core count advantages. And it falls within striking distance of the 7800X3D and the single-core test. The chip also posted impressive numbers in the Blender benchmark, as well as in 7-Zip's built-in benchmark. These definitely aren't the highest results I've ever gotten, but they still show that even though the 8600G wasn't built for these specific productivity tasks in mind, it's still more than enough to get the job done. Oh, and I also fired up Adobe's Photoshop and Premiere Pro just to see what they're like, and while the chip handled the former just fine, Premiere Pro experience while editing 4K RAW projects wasn't what I'd call passable. You're definitely still going to want a dedicated GPU if you regularly work on projects like that. Okay, so I think we've all been edged enough, so let's just get to what everyone's been waiting for, gaming performance. In our two CAN benchmarks, Unigine Superposition and 3D March Time Spy, I was legitimately taken aback by the former running as smoothly as it did, and the latter even completing full runs at all. This is an iGPU, man, We should not be seeing results like this from a desktop APU. Moving on to actual games running at 1080p, I kicked things off with a couple of competitive titles. And even though I was running medium to high quality presets, the 8600G still managed more than playable frame rates in both Rocket League and Fortnite, though Fortnite was a little unstable as shown by the 1% lows. And it even managed an impressive average of 144 FPS in Valorant. Even though I wasn't expecting much from the plucky 8600G in the more graphically demanding games, I played around with some of those too, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised. In Cyberpunk, using the low quality preset with FSR set to performance, the chip managed an average of just under 40 FPS. And as preposterous as it might sound to some of you, the game still looked good, and I would consider it to be borderline playable at that frame rate. And the same goes for Palworld, using the very low preset. Sure, 44 FPS isn't exactly ideal, but the fact that the game balances on that borderline playability line so well on integrated graphics is more than commendable. And for our final game, I tossed in what I'm playing right now, Lies of P using medium settings and balanced scaling. And man, does this game look gorgeous even at lower settings. And instead of borderline, I definitely rate 51 FPS in this specific title totally playable, because that's exactly what I did. I played the game on beefed up integrated graphics for a couple of hours, and I had fun doing it. That's what it's all about. While running through all those games, the 8600G managed a max power draw of just 68 watts, and only maxed out at 81 degrees with an ambient temp of 23 degrees. That Wraith Stealth cooler is putting in work. Under full loads on both the CPU and GPU, that did spike to more like 80 watts and 93 degrees or so, but you'll rarely ever see numbers that high unless you plan on running heavy benchmarks on a daily basis. Okay, so I'm going to be real with you guys. When I first learned about the 8000G series chips, I wasn't overly hyped for them. I mean, I haven't found myself without a dedicated graphics card in many years now, so me and other PC veterans in the same situation wouldn't really have a use case for a beefed up iGPU in our main systems. But that's missing the point entirely. The 8600G isn't meant for anyone who already has a decent GPU, or for people who plan to buy one in the very near future. Heck, it's not even supposed to get you the highest FPS you can get right now within its price range. Once you factor in the cost of the rest of the components you'll need, you could put together a somewhat price comparable system with a dedicated GPU like the RX 6400 or 6500 XC, which will net you a better gaming performance overall. Now, I think the 8600G is for people who want a great CPU and want a decent gaming experience while they save up for a worthwhile graphics card sometime down the road. For retro gamers, or potentially even emulator gamers who don't play the latest and greatest friggin' sextuple A games. For creators looking for capable, inexpensive upgrades. For people who mainly use their systems for work, but wouldn't mind a couple of rounds of Valorant. For people who get a kick out of small form factor builds. Or, above all, just people who want to board the AM5 train, which, if AM4 was anything to go by, should offer extremely viable upgrade paths and future-proofing features for hopefully many years to come. And yeah, that wraps it up for this one. If you want to learn more about AMD's 8000G series chips, be sure to check out the links in the description. And if you're in South Africa and want to grab your own PC builder rig, or you just want a useful tool to help you put together one of your own, I'll be dropping a link for that down below too. Alright, like if you liked it, subscribe if you wanna, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers.